Well, good morning and good afternoon to friends and colleagues throughout the United States, and good evening to all of our guests in the UAE and throughout the Middle East region. Welcome to today's webinar concerning the UAE space program and opportunities for business collaboration. I'm Danny Seabright, president of the US-UAE Business Council, which is the business organization dedicated to advancing bilateral commercial relations between our two countries. We are pleased to be supporting today's event, which is part of the Department of Commerce's Foreign Commercial Service Discover America Trade Talk series. We are also honored to be joined today by one of the stars, so to speak, of the UAE space program, Mr. Adnan AlRais. Adnan serves as the program manager for the Mars 2117 program and senior director of the Remote Sensing Department at the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. Adnan will share his insights on the goals and objectives of the UAE space program, as well as opportunities for partnership. He will then be joined for a panel discussion with two senior executives from Northrop Grumman and Jacobs Space Engineering Group, who will offer an important U.S. perspective on developments within the UAE space program, as well as the space sector writ large. I should note that today we have nearly 350 registered guests for the webinar, comprising business executives, government officials, and thought leaders. These include our friends and partners from various U.S. government agencies, including NASA, various UAE government agencies, including the UAE Space Agency, the UAE Embassy in Washington, D.C., and UAE Consulate in New York City, the U.S. Embassy in Abu Dhabi and the U.S. Consulate in Dubai, Expo 2020 Dubai, the Dubai Chamber, the Dubai Department of Economic Development, our partner AmCham Abu Dhabi, our partner Kalman Worldwide, our partner the Aerospace Industries Association, and our special friends at the Space Foundation. We also have online representatives from a number of states, including California, Florida, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. We are joined by a dozen academic institutions, among them American University of Sharjah, Khalifa University, NYU, and NYU Abu Dhabi. We have press on the line today from the Wall Street Journal and Reuters. I'd like to give a special shout out to a very special friend of the council, Matt Kaplan from the Planetary Society, who is the host and producer of Planetary Radio. Please note that today's session is on the record. It is being live streamed, and a video recording of the event will be posted on YouTube, where many more people may watch it in the coming days. The audience is welcome and encouraged to submit questions through the Q&A feature on the bottom of your screens. I'd like to now turn it over to a very, very special friend and colleague, close partner for introductory remarks, Thomas Bruns, who serves as Regional Senior Commercial Officer at the U.S. Department of Commerce and is based at the U.S. Embassy in Abu Dhabi. Thomas has been a very close friend and partner of the Business Council for a number of years. Thomas has been with the Department of Commerce since 2008 and has over 20 years of professional experience in both the public and private sector. Thomas, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Danny, for the very, very nice and kind introduction. I'm really pleased to be here and always pleased to work with you and your team at the Council. I'm very proud to welcome Senior Director Mr. Adnan Mohammed AlRais of the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center. Thank you, sir, for joining us to share your extremely valuable insights. On behalf of the U.S. Embassy team, I share our generous thanks again to our host, Danny Seabright at the U.S. That Danny mentioned, Northrop Grumman, Jacobs Engineering, and Accelerate Energy. I'm really happy that we're going to be joined by several U.S. industry leaders, David Pyle at Northrop Grumman, and Peter Montgomery at Jacobs Engineering later in the panel session. Those companies are really on the forefront of space technology and commercialization of space exploration. So very excited to hear from them later on as well. I would like to thank also our U.S. Department of Commerce Space Global Team and our colleagues at U.S. Export Assistance Centers across the United States for their amazing support. Our mission at the U.S. Commercial Service is to connect U.S. companies with opportunities and partners in the UAE. And our large audience here that Danny mentioned, over 350 U.S. companies that are registered, I think is a testament to Danny's amazing organizational skills and also our network's strong interest in U.S. companies to collaborate with the UAE on their space program. Obviously, this has been an incredible year for the UAE with tremendous achievements in space. Americans celebrated together with Emiratis the arrival of the Al-Amal or Hope Emirates Mars mission to Mars. And this outstanding accomplishment of the UAE bears great significance for the region and the world. The UAE is making extremely important contributions to space science, and it's recognized and valued by everyone. We're also very proud that the two Emirati astronauts are training side by side with NASA astronauts and other international partners at the Johnson Space Center. And we hope that U.S. companies will join the field and offer their state-of-the-art training facilities to the new Emirati astronauts announced this year. These are just a few highlights. We had much to celebrate in the last year. We look forward to our future space cooperation. The UAE is a valued partner for the United States in space cooperation, and we are extremely committed to continuing to grow our partnership. We look forward to working together with UAE to identify new commercial prospects that U.S. companies can engage with to further propel the UAE to space. U.S. companies such as Northrop Grumman, Jacobs Engineering, Axiom Space, SpaceX, to name just a few, stand ready with cutting-edge technologies and solutions as your trusted first partners of choice. And our bilateral commercial relationship, I think, will rise to new heights, with every commercial launch. With so many space events this fall in the UAE, I just wanted to the International Astronautical Congress, Expo Space Theme Week, the Dubai Air Show. There are many, many different opportunities for U.S. companies this year in particular to come to the UAE and work with MBRSC and others around space opportunities. So I hope that as a result of this call, some of you decide to take that on. So with that, I want to thank Danny and the council again, and everybody on this call for joining. Back to you, Danny. Thank you.
Thomas, thank you so much for your remarks and for the opportunity to partner with you and your team, Eric Kish, and all of your dedicated Foreign Service nationals who are working in the mission in Abu Dhabi. We appreciate the partnership very, very much. I'm now pleased to introduce Mr. Adnan AlRais. In his capacity as Senior Director of the Remote Sensing Department at the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, Adnan and his team are responsible for all downstream activities of MBRSC space missions. This includes ground network operations and maintenance, satellite operations, satellite data processing, applications and value-added products development, interfacing with the end users, and commercializing MBRSC products and services. In addition, Adnan is the program manager of the Mars 2017 program, working on setting up the strategy and leading initiatives to build a settlement on Mars and send humans to Mars by 2017. Adnan, thank you for your leadership, your dedication, and for taking time to join us today, particularly so late in your evening in the UAE. The floor is yours. You need to unmute. There you go, sir.
Yes. Thank you very much, Danny, for the introduction. Thank you also, Thomas, for your kind words. I hope you can see my presentation slides here. Um, First of all, I'd like to thank you also for organizing this great webinar to highlight the National Space Program in the United Arab Emirates. Through my presentation slides, I would like to take you through the different programs and initiatives that we have within our National Space Program, and also show you some examples of partnerships that we had in the previous programs and existing programs, identifying also opportunities for potential cooperation and collaboration with the US industry. But before that, please allow me to give you a quick history about the center and when it was established and the objective behind the center. So we were established back in 2006, known as Emirates Institution for Advanced Science and Technology. In 2015, a decree was issued by the Dubai government to establish the Mohammed bin Rashid Space Center, MBRC. So we are part of the Dubai government, an independent entity working on the implementation of the UAE National Space Program. We have a vision to be recognized globally as a center of excellence in the field of space science and technological innovation, and a mission to enable the UAE to effectively create, use, and exploit space science technologies and applications. So we work on supporting the development, sustainable development in the area of science and technology sector in the UAE. The United Arab Emirates government, the federal government, entrusted MBRC to work on the implementation of the UAE National Space Program, which consists of 4 main programs. I'll take you through those programs and also introduce some of the projects that we have in those programs. The first pillar of the UAE National Space Program is the Satellite Development Program. And our catalyst project was the Dubai Sat-1 satellite. It's considered UAE's first Earth observation satellite that was launched successfully in 2009. It was part of an in-depth technology and know-how transfer program between EAS at that time and our partner in South Korea. We sent a group of our engineers to South Korea. They lived there over 10 years working on the development of Dubai Sat-1. Our contribution was less than 30%. After the completion of Dubai Sat-1, even before the launch of the Dubai Sat-1 satellite, we jumped on and working with our partner South Korea on Dubai Sat-2. It was a joint development. We continued our know-how and technology transfer program with our partner in South Korea, and we launched successfully the UAE's second Earth observation satellite, Dubai Sat-2, in 2013. After that, we reached a level that we can now depend on our local Emirati engineers on the development of the follow-on mission, which was Khalifa Sat, which was launched successfully in 2018. They are all Earth observation satellites that provide the high-resolution imagery that could be used for many applications. We moved it even to the next level with the Earth observation satellite, working on DMSAT-1 mission. This mission, we worked with the University of Toronto, the Space Flight Lab at the University of Toronto. They developed the mission. We worked on the development of all aspects of the ground segment in terms of application development and value-added products. And the unique thing about this mission is that the requirement came from the municipality, the Dubai municipality. They knew the importance of the space and monitoring the greenhouse gases and air quality. And they came up, asking for solutions. And accordingly, we developed the requirements. And working with our partner, the University of Toronto, we launched this satellite successfully in March this year. Currently, we are working on the follow-on mission, the MBZSat, our next generation Earth observation satellite that is fully developed in-house in our facilities at MBRC. Moving to the second pillar of the UAE National Space Program, which is the Emirates Mars mission, and our catalyst project, the HOPE probe, which was launched successfully last year and reached its orbit around Mars, February this year. The scientific objective behind this mission is to study the Martian atmosphere and provide this global, diurnal, seasonal, day-to-night coverage of the Martian atmosphere. We worked on this mission with 3 main universities of the United States, working with the University of Colorado in Boulder, University of California, Berkeley, and Arizona State University in all aspects of this mission. It was joint development. We had a team of young Emirati engineers work together with the scientists in those 3 main universities on the development of all aspects of this mission. We have 3 scientific instruments on board this mission that provides the visible imagery as well as high resolution imagery using the MRS exploration imager, the MRS Mars infrared spectrometers, as well as the ultraviolet spectrometers. Moving to the, so here we have some samples of the early images and data captured by those 3 instruments. Moving to the third pillar, which is the Mars 2117 strategy. It is a 100-year strategy to build settlement on Mars and sending human to the surface of Mars. And in order to implement this strategy, we have identified 4 main pillars: the research and development, education, enablement, and collaboration. Under each pillar, we have different sets of projects and initiatives. When it comes to the research and development, we looked into the global exploration roadmap that was set by international space agencies, including the UAE, that contribute in that. And as per the global exploration roadmap, Moon is our pathway, is our gateway to reach Mars. And accordingly, we have developed our strategy so that it's in line with the global exploration roadmap. We have identified the gaps in the global exploration roadmaps, and we worked on those gaps to support the implementation of global exploration roadmap. And accordingly, we came up with a number of new programs and initiatives. The first one is the MRS lunar mission. And our first project is the Rashid Rover, which will be launched by end of 2022. It is our first robotics mission that will be landing on the surface of another celestial body. The previous mission, our Earth observation satellites and the HOPE probe, they're all orbiters. But this is going to be the first time we are developing a robotics mission that will land on another celestial body. We have many scientific objectives, and we're working closely with the local university as well as international partners, space agencies, and researchers in different aspects related to the science of this mission. Moving from robotics to human. So through the Mars 2117 program, we are introducing the human research program through the participation in different analogs missions. And the first analog that we are going to participate, that's going to be at IPMP in Moscow, which we're going to have 2 Emirati candidates participating in 8 months duration total isolation and confinement for 8 months. And during those 8 months, we have different experiments proposed by PIs from local universities that will be part of this long duration analog mission. This is going to be first analog, and we are planning to participate as well on future analog missions. Also, an important pillar of the Mars 2117 is the enablement, and through the enablement, we would like to create that space ecosystem. Therefore, we have introduced a Space Ventures program. This is our platform to work with the startups, entrepreneurs, and industries locally and internationally on identifying potential areas of cooperation and collaboration on those projects that I've mentioned earlier. Also, collaboration and international collaboration has been always an integral part in all of our missions. And the UAE, through the Mars 2117, we have introduced the World Space Sustainability Association to be that platform to work internationally with different partners, and also to foster these space sustainability discussions here in the UAE. This is an association established in the UAE in the Dubai International Financial Center, and at Expo we'll be talking more about the association. We're looking forward to having more members as part of the World Space Sustainability Association. Moving to the Mars Science City, again, one of the initiatives under the Mars 2117 program. And this is going to be our platform to develop the science and technologies that will enable us to reach the surface of Mars. We're going to have unique state-of-art facilities in terms of space robotics facilities that will enable us to develop our future robotics missions. We're going to have also advanced analog facilities, as well as a space sustainability lab to focus on ISRU research. Finally, we have the fourth program, which is the UAE astronaut program. As you all know, we launched our first astronaut to the International Space Station, Hazza al-Mansouri, an 8-day pure scientific mission. Currently, Hazza and his colleague Sultan in Houston doing their training there. And we're happy that we have also additional 2 members, including the first Arab female astronaut that will be going and joining their colleagues Hazza and Sultan in Houston early next year for their training. These are many projects and many initiatives and many programs that we have within the center, some of them that we've achieved, and there are many in the pipeline. But our greatest achievement is this team. Today, we are proud that we have 200 young Emirati engineers working in the area of advanced space science and technologies. 42% of them are women, and the average age group of this team is around 27, 28 years old. This is our greatest achievement here at the center. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Adnan, thank you so much for that great discussion. We're really, really pleased, as I said, to have you on. We do have a few questions in the Q&A that are starting to come in. But if I could, I'm going to introduce our other panelists quickly. Thomas mentioned that David Pyle, who is the Northrop Grumman Space Director for the UK, Europe, and Middle East, North Africa region, is with us today. Northrop Grumman Space Systems is one of the leading international space companies designing, developing, manufacturing, and supporting a full range of space capabilities and products. Its capabilities include commercial and military satellites, launch vehicles and services, on-orbit mission and extension servicing solutions, propulsion systems, communication and observation payloads, specialist space components, spacecraft, and missile defense solutions. I'd also like to introduce and invite onto the screen Peter Montgomery, who is the Director of Commercialization at the Jacobs Space Operations Group. Jacobs is notably NASA's largest professional and technical services provider, contributing proven experience to many of NASA's spaceflight programs, with employees located throughout 8 major NASA centers across the United States. I will turn the first question over to our group. Before I do so, I'd like to remind our guests to please feel free to submit any questions through the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screens. Adnan, wonderful accomplishments in the last year and a half, 2 years by the UAE as you inserted the probe into Martian orbit in February 2021. The UAE is now, as you said, now planning to launch a rover to the moon on 2024 and even settle on the red planet by 2117. Why has the UAE placed such emphasis on space? Give us a little bit of background of the genesis for this, please.
Sure, excellent question. So space is one of the pillars of the strategy of the country for the upcoming 50 years. Our country was, the economy of the country was based on oil revenues in the early 50 years, becoming less dependent on oil. By end of the next 50 years, we will be fully independent and focusing on other areas like science and technology and space to contribute in the economy of the country. We want to establish that diversified economy. This is the reason, the strategic objective behind going to space. Also, space is a platform for international collaboration. Through the different space programs and space projects, we worked internationally with different partners around the world, and we became an active member in shaping the future. And we want to use this platform to work together with many countries and many nations. Also, space prepare the next generation of scientists, engineers that will be ready as well to contribute in the development of the country. Those are some of the reasons why UAE moved and focused on space and investing in space.
Adnan, thank you for that. I was a young man in high school when we had the Apollo missions, and I thought I was going to be an astronaut as a result. It captivated a generation of Americans to think more seriously about science and engineering and mathematics and STEM. And we are really hoping that this strategy on your part will be successful as you capture a generation of new youth, not only in the Arab world, but around the world and across the greater region. Peter and David, What are your thoughts about the UAE's rapid emergence here as a major player in the space industry, if I could? David first and then Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, many thanks, Danny, and thanks to the team for inviting me. It's a great honor to be here today. I mean, Adna's just given a wonderful presentation, and the only word I can say is sort of inspirational. The amount of, I guess, the foresight and the strategy, and then actually putting into practice, is quite amazing. With the successes that have already happened, getting to Mars, and the plan for the next few years. And I think I'd very much like to that's an absolutely massive goal. To work with partners across the globe, and work internationally, but to develop those engineers to be able to deliver the success for the missions now and to the moon and then to Mars. That's got to be such a ringing success just at this point.
Thank you, Peter.
Well, thank you, Danny. I also appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the discussion today, and I share many of David's points there. Very impressive presentation, some great accomplishments. I followed very closely the Hope arrival at Mars and was quite impressed with that accomplishment. What really catches my eye, though, and along the lines of what David said, is the ability to inspire that next generation. And clearly, you're seeing that success already with the 200 engineers that were mentioned. I too was young during the Apollo era, and following those missions very much inspired me at a very early age to aspire to be a part of this industry today. And I'm sure you will see similar benefits following this approach in the UAE as well. I'm also particularly impressed with the outreach to the international community. There's been a lot of significant success around the world by partnering with other nations. ISS, of course, is one that we're all very much aware of. And as we look on to the moon and look beyond to Mars, I think we're going to see a lot more of that activity. So the vision I see here is very impressive, and certainly the accomplishments that have followed up already with that are quite suggestive of a very prosperous future.
Adnan, I want to ask you some questions about the Mars mission, the current one and the future one. But before I do, there was a question in the chat box about cooperation here in low Earth orbit and with the ISS. I was curious if there's anything you can say about astronaut training or future activities with the ISS science and facilities supporting on-orbit current science facilities. Please, Adnan.
Thank you very much for this question. Definitely, as I mentioned earlier, that we do have the training for our astronauts in Houston. When it comes to the in-orbit, definitely this is something that we are always looking into. Till the next mission, it will take a couple of years till we train our astronauts and prepare the astronaut for the upcoming opportunity. It will take 2 or 3 years to do that. We don't want to wait for another 4 years in order to have an Emirati experiment implemented on ISS. Therefore, through our science program, we have identified the certain research areas that we would like to focus on and develop locally here with our universities and partnership with also with international universities, developing those experiments and science and then conduct them on the International Space Station. This is something that we are definitely of interest for the center in order to develop our scientific capabilities, preparing also our scientists and researchers. The first mission that we sent Hazza al-Masri to International Space Station, all the experiments were done in collaboration with our partners from the space agencies, from NASA, from ESA, we did with JAXA, and also our partners, Roscosmos. For the next mission, we would like to see Emirati experiments implemented there on the International Space Station. In order to do that, we have to work on this from now, preparing those capabilities locally, partnering with international universities and research institutions, and also the industry that will enable us to reach ISS and conduct those experiments there.
Thank you. Adnan and Peter and David, weigh in on this when he's finished, please. Why Mars? I mean, why go all the way to Mars? Why want to put a city, if you will, on Mars by 2117? I'm just curious if you could tell a little more background and to put the satellite in Mars orbit. What are you learning? What do you hope to learn from that? Why the goal and objective of Mars?
So the Mars 2117, as you mentioned, it's this 100 years of strategy, generational plan to build that settlement on Mars and sending human to the surface of Mars. This shows the commitment from the UAE government to continue investing in space for the next 100 years, to continue working on capacity building here locally, to continue working with international partners on identifying future missions and opportunities. Why Mars? There are many challenges that we're going to face on the surface of Mars. Those challenges, we are facing them here today on Earth, in our region, our country, when it comes, for example, to food, water, energy security. Those challenges that you're going to face on the surface of Mars, and those challenges we are facing them here today on Earth. So our investment in space, our investment in development of science and technology related to Mars exploration, we would like to see the fruit of that today here on Earth for the humanity, not only for our country and for our region. There are new disciplines that we are introducing when it comes like space robotics capabilities that we're developing for the first time through the Emirates Lunar mission, which is our pathway to Mars. So when it comes to the robotics capabilities, this is a new industry that we're introducing here in the country. And by introducing new industry, you introduce also new partnerships as well, locally and internationally. There are many objectives behind that. When it comes to the HOPE probe, there are many things that we've accomplished through this mission. We have trained our young engineers with the 3 main universities in the United States, as I mentioned earlier. We continued our know-how and technology transfer program with those partners. We established this partnership with the US academia, industry, as well as work with NASA on different aspects as well. So a lot of things that we've accomplished. Scientifically, we are collecting the data from the Martian atmosphere, and we hope that we'll achieve some scientific achievements and we'll announce them in the coming months, hopefully.
Peter, from Jacob's perspective, you're interested in Mars, I think, because you're gonna build 3D buildings there someday? Is that right?
Well, that's certainly one of the challenges that we are looking at addressing. You know, Jacobs is very much a solutions company, and that's a solution that we definitely see a need to. Obviously, when you carry weight into space on a rocket, you want to minimize that weight as much as possible to really make room for the science, for the people, for the aspects that are most critical to that mission. So if you have the means or the approach that will allow you to generate those structures on the surface of another world, in this case Mars, that saves you quite a bit of weight, 60 to 90% of that weight that you don't have to carry with you. So that is something our team, particularly at NASA Marshall Space Flight Center, working in partnership with them for the last several years, has been exploring. Looking at 3D manufacturing, additive manufacturing. We take a look at the elements of the soil of Mars as well as the moon. We're looking at what mixtures can be brought together there, together with a type of concrete there to build those solid structures. What's the environment the challenges that you have to address there at Mars, and how do you adjust your design as well as those mixtures accordingly? And then ultimately, what's the fastest, most efficient, cost-effective way to generate those structures? The team there has actually had quite a bit of success with that. They've actually scaled that up to a full-scale prototype, working closely with the Army Corps of Engineers Research Lab. And they're looking at a lot of applications back here on Earth, going into areas where you need to rapidly build up structures, either due to a large movement of personnel or, let's say, a climate emergency, some sort of disaster in the area. You need to quickly generate structures. So there's a lot of applications back here on Earth as well. But yes, our team has made quite a bit of progress with that, and we're excited with where that's going as we continue to iterate on that going forward.
That's great. And David, what's Northrop Grumman doing from the standpoint of Mars? Why so important for Northrop?
Well, I think Mars is, coming back to our earlier discussion, that sort of, we need to set ourselves grand targets, stretching targets, and Mars is that target which really inspires. It's not just, it's not any nation, any of our nations. It's an international goal we can set for inspiration. And as Adnan said, we saw so many things came out of the Apollo missions, and the continued missions from the way we develop things into space. Actually, we use those technologies then to improve Earth. And Mars is going to give us that 10, 100-fold as we start pushing towards, the challenges for Mars are going to be much harder than the lunar environment. So yeah, we're all busy across the industry working towards those goals. And I think, as Adnan said in his presentation, this has got to be an international effort, collaborating, and very much a partnership in order to deliver the objectives.
If I could ask David and both of you, please, to say a word about the opportunity for partnerships by SMEs with your companies in your work, David and Peter, with the UAE in particular. Are there opportunities for SMEs to get involved with each of your companies, David, and then Peter?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I couldn't even say the number of SMEs we work with at the moment, but as Northrop Grumman Space, we are. You gave us that wonderful introduction. The amount of things we do across the space capability sort of arena. Everything from our space logistics work through to our propulsion. All of these things. A lot of it is Northrop Grumman work, but equally we have a very large supply chain and supply network, which is in the US, but also very much internationally. And we're constantly looking for innovation, for new ways of doing things, for new ideas, and working with those companies to bring them on board, sometimes to help them along, sometimes they come fully formed, and to integrate those in. Sometimes I've worked with small companies a lot across well, everywhere in this region, and it's about bringing together those small, the big, the medium together, alongside with governments as customers, to really deliver the solution. So there's very much opportunities.
And Peter?
Yeah, with our case, it's very similar. We actually operate in 40 countries today, and we have suppliers through each of those all over the world, as well as across the U.S. There's a lot of different ways to interact with us. We cover the breadth in terms of the majority of the NASA centers and the work we're doing there. There's a lot of engineering, a lot of design work, a lot of materials, research. There's aspects of working with the astronauts and the different systems that go with that, systems with the different spacecraft, the testing that goes on at those different locations. All of those need a variety of support from experts, as well as a variety of products from all over the world. And so, very similar to David, we have a tremendous amount of opportunities to work with companies wherever they may be located, especially in the UAE. As we indeed already have activities ongoing there as well.
Thank you. Adnan, before we leave Mars and go to the moon, I have a couple questions I want to ask you about the moon. I just asked Matt Kaplan if he could, he has a question that he wanted to ask you. I'm going to ask him to unmute his line so that he can come online and ask you a question about the HOPE mission. Matt, if you want to unmute, you can ask your question. There you go, please, from Planetary Radio. Can you speak, Matt? You're unmuted. Well, it's not working. We'll try that again later. I'm going to just do one more little click, and I promoted him to a panelist. Maybe it'll work now. Can you talk now, Matt? Can you speak? Well, we're having issues with Zoom in that regard. But his question, Adnan, and I'm going to ask it delicately, might there be a really big announcement about the HOPE mission coming up anytime soon? And is there anything you're allowed to say if that might be in the offing?
Nothing in particular when it comes to the HOPE mission. We are doing our observations. We are in the initial science phase. We are doing our observation using the 3 science instruments that we have. And we hope that we reach, a level that we can do some big announcement about, the outcomes of the mission. Nothing yet concrete about any particular announcement about the HOPE mission.
All
We're
right.
just at the beginning of our science phase.
All right. All right. Okay. Sounds great. Let's go to the moon. Man's coming back to the moon. The women are coming back to the moon. The human race is coming back to the moon. The UAE this spring announced a partnership to deliver its first lunar rover, Rashid, to the moon. Adnan, you've been quoted in the press as saying that the moon is the first step in developing science capabilities. Can you talk about that a little bit more? Can you talk about some of your partners that are helping you with the Rashid rover mission to the moon, please?
Yeah, sure. So the Rashid rover is a 10 kg mission developed here at Mohammed bin Rashid the Space Center by our local Emirati engineers. We have different scientific instruments on board this mission. We have thermal cameras, imagers, Langmuir probes, and other instruments. We have partnered with the French space agency CNES. They're providing 2 of those cameras on board the Rashid rover. We're working with iSpace from Japan on delivering the rover to the surface of the moon by Q4 2022. In terms of the science, we're working with the international universities, including some of the universities in the United States, on some of the aspects of the science. When it comes to the science, one of the experiments that we're doing at the Rashid rover is that we're adding different materials between the grousers of the wheels of the rover. And using the different instruments, we are monitoring the interaction between those materials and the surface of the moon. And those universities, international universities, proposing those materials and working with them on identifying the materials, applying them on the grouser, doing those analysis and providing those analysis to the university's international community. So this one simple experiment will help, future missions to identify the right components and materials to be developed and used for future infrastructure, technologies, or future missions to the surface of the moon. We are doing a lot of also science when it comes to the lunar regolith. There's also the space robotics capabilities that we are developing through this mission. Another technology demonstration that we're doing is the lunar night survival, using developing a small 10 kg mission to be able to survive the first lunar night. So this is we are attempting to survive the lunar night, and the results from this experiment definitely will be provided as well to the international space community. In addition to that, we are testing the direct to Earth communication. So from the surface of the moon, from our rover, our 10 kg rover, establishing direct communication to the ground station or Earth without going through the lander. And this is a technology that we would like to test for the first time. And this will enable us, hopefully, once we survive the lunar night, to establish such communication.
Thank you so much. What are Northrop and Jacobs doing with regard to the moon? Please go ahead, David. You go first.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the association with the moon for Northrop Grumman is very long. So obviously back in the day we designed the Lunar Lander for the Apollo mission. So yeah, we're very excited about it. Yeah, there's a bunch of things going on. So at the moment we're very excited to provide the boosters for the Space Launch System, and you would have seen on the news that it's probably quite near where Peter is now. The SLS being stacked ready for the first launch later this year. We're also working on the habitation and logistics outpost. So that's the effectively like the space station which is going to orbit the moon. And provide the sort of the dropping off post for the astronauts before they go down on the surface. And we're building on a lot of the knowledge and the expertise there from our Cygnus space station spacecraft, which has been resupplying the International Space Station for a number of years now. We're also involved in looking at the human lander system, the rovers on the moon, and as Adnan mentioned as well, communications for the moon. There's such a raft of opportunities for us to to develop a sustainable habitat on the moon. And it's great to hear the partnerships that Adnan mentioned, that it's really a global endeavor to do this.
Peter?
Well, thank you. Yeah, our Jacobs teams at all the NASA locations are very much engaged in supporting the upcoming Artemis 1 mission, as well as the later missions to come back to the moon and eventually on to Mars. Right now, as David mentioned, just across the parking lot from where I'm sitting in the vehicle assembly building, we do have the solid rocket boosters stacked and ready to go. We've attached the core stage, the first stage of the vehicle, as well as the adapter to the top of that, moving our way up in support of NASA and the assembly of that new space launch system for that Artemis 1 flight. So we're going to continue to integrate that. We'll be doing quite a bit of testing, as this will be the first time the full vehicle will have come together and been assembled here. And then in support of NASA, we will be launching that onto the moon, hopefully at some point in the next few months. So we're very excited about that here at Kennedy Space Center. Over at Johnson Space Center, a lot of work our team is doing in support of the new spacesuits for the astronauts that will eventually walk on the moon, as well as other surfaces in the future. A lot of work with the robotics side of things. We've been, for many years, supporting a lot of the robotics work on ISS, and we'll be moving forward to support that on the lunar surface as well. And then at our variety of our test sites in support of NASA at the testing centers, for example, out at White Sands, as well as NASA Langley, there's a lot of work already underway with supporting the next Artemis missions, 2 and 3 and beyond. Also back here at Kennedy, we're currently producing the thermal protection system materials in support of the Lockheed Martin Orion spacecraft that'll ride on top of the rocket and carry those astronauts. And so a lot of activity end to end there as we get ready to go back to the moon, and very excited about where things are going and how it's progressing at this point.
Thank you, Peter. Adnan, in addition to the private sector players, and it's really important that Jacobs and Northrop are on the webinar with us today, the UAE has collaborated closely with NASA on the overall space program, and it's also worked very, very closely with U.S. academic institutions like the University of Colorado at Boulder at their laboratory for atmospheric and space physics, where the HOPE mission, the HOPE orbiter, was assembled. There's a number of questions in the Q&A, including from my good friend Jay Houston at Northrop about the work of, excuse me, Jay's at Raytheon. I didn't mean to get the wrong company there. Jay Houston at Raytheon. There's a lot of good closer and collaborative efforts going on with U.S. educational institutions, between U.S. and UAE educational institutions. Adnan, say a few words about that and the opportunities and the importance of developing the curriculum for the future in these areas, please.
Sure. So the HOPE mission is a great example of collaboration between UAE and the United States. We partnered with the 3 universities, University of Colorado and Boulder, LASP, the main partner in the integration and development of the HOPE probe, as well as the other universities, UC Berkeley and Arizona State University. And we selected those universities because of the openness to work with us, to collaborate with us, to share their knowledge, and jointly develop this mission. We know that this is a very risky mission. We know the capabilities there, but we selected them because of the people behind those universities. Through this collaboration, we worked with NASA on using the Deep Space Network to support the Immerse Mars mission. And also we had reviewers from NASA to support the different and major milestones of the project. And through this collaboration as well, we work with the industry in the United States. We had a lot of components and subsystems developed and provided by different partners in the US. We had also Kinetics, for example, from the United States, who worked with us on the navigation. And we developed a lot of capabilities through this partnership. So we developed a lot of our capabilities by partnering with academia, with the private sector, as well as the partnership with NASA. It's important that all this knowledge and experience that we gain, we transfer it into a sustainable program through the different curriculum and education outreach programs that we have here in the UAE. We have launched many workshops and many education outreach activities here, preparing that next generation to contribute and work with us on future missions.
Well, thank you very much. We're coming here close to the end. I want to give a chance to say a few words about Expo 2020, the Dubai Air Show, which is coming up in November, the major World Space Congress that Thomas Bruns mentioned. But gents, one question I ask all of my panelists whenever I do a webinar is what keeps them up at night? What do they worry about? What wakes them up at 3 a.m. because it's on their mind? I'm going to ask you guys a different question. The U.S. came out with a major finding last week in the press about unidentified flying objects, and a study that has been going on by the U.S. government since the mid-2000s. Just curious to for all three of you, to your reaction to that. What's going on? Is Hollywood ahead of the pack again on trends? Are the aliens among us today? What are your thoughts? And I know this is a little off the beaten track, but if we didn't ask this question, given the fact that the major study released by the U.S. government last week, it would seem a little odd to me. Adnan, give us your thoughts, and then I'm going to put David and Peter on this to do the same.
Well, this is very interesting topic, Danny. I didn't read the full report. I went through the headlines, and I saw some of the articles, and I read some of those. Basically, this is something really interesting. The answer, honestly, I don't know. This is something that definitely we are exploring, and hopefully when we reach Mars and beyond, maybe we can find something.
Okay, David, go ahead.
Well, certainly I'm not qualified really to answer the question, but it's definitely an area of huge.
For more from both of you as experts or in this area, your personal views, please.
Absolutely. Well, I think it's an area of huge interest for lots and lots of people, and you are seeing, well, we've seen it for many decades, reports of strange things happening, strange sightings, etc. So, they always say there's no smoke without fire. So, who knows? We'll see what happens.
All right, Peter, any thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's fair to say that humanity has always wrestled with the question, are we alone in the universe? That goes back since the beginning of humankind. I don't know that we know enough to really have an answer to that yet, but the more we learn about the universe, the more we learn about what's out there. We can certainly see possibilities for life existing on other worlds, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I think that still remains to be seen, but it's certainly exciting to think about. It's an interesting topic, and I think we learn more every day.
Well, what I found most fascinating from the report was while they said they had no evidence that these unidentified flying objects were extraterrestrial necessarily, they very clearly said they had no evidence that they were made by humankind here on Earth. And so I found that very challenging, perplexing, and interesting for follow-up. But in any event, maybe we will have when we're more engaged on the moon and on Moon's orbit and in Mars, maybe we will bump into someone else out there. Adnan, tell us a little bit about, here in the closing minutes, why Expo 2020 is so important from your standpoint, from representing your country, and what all the various panelists or the various attendees need to know about Expo 2020 and the Space Congress, which is going to occur there, please.
Yeah, so 2021 is going to be very busy with different space events and activities happening here in the UAE. We have the Expo Space Week, during the week of the 17th of October. We have also the International Astronautical Congress happening during the week of 25th of October. And mid-November, we're going to have also the Dubai Air Show, and there's a huge presence when it comes to the space through the Space Pavilion and different programs that we have also within the Dubai Air Show. So IAC and those events happening here in the UAE for the first time, it's a great opportunity for the world to introduce to them the space program, the space projects, the activities that we are doing here within the UAE National Space Program, as well as introducing them to other players in the UAE and the region as well. So we are bringing this event for the first time to Dubai and the UAE and the region. So we are opening the door for potential cooperation as well with for our partners and other space agencies in our region. The UAE played an important role on advancing space activities in our region. And through hosting IAC Space Week and the space activities in the air show, we established this collaboration between agencies, academia, private sector, with the center here at MBRC, with the space industry here in the country, as well as the region.
Thank you. Peter and David, Jacobs and Northrop are both key partners to Expo 2020 and to what's going to happen at the Dubai Air Show. Very excited that both of you and your companies can support those efforts. You want to say one last word in that regard before I give some closing thoughts? Peter, why don't you go first, and then David.
Sure, thank you. Yeah, we're very excited about Expo and IAC as well as the other events you mentioned. Anytime you can bring the international community together, I think it's a great opportunity for new innovation and new discussions regarding collaboration. And I think each of those activities provide a variety of those opportunities for exactly that. Jacobs has been a very active member of IAC for quite some time. We had a very strong team at the meeting in DC, and we're planning on having a team there coming up as well. And we also have been very active with the Expo as well, serving as a program manager for many of the activities there. So we're very excited about the events. It's a great opportunity, and look forward to seeing them successfully brought forward.
I know the Expo team very much appreciates your partnership and has for many years as a key partner there, and bringing the World's Fair to the greatest show on earth to the UAE in October is just going to be an amazing feat. David, you want to say a word or two about that or about Air Show?
Yeah, absolutely. Just echoing what Peter said. Really, really excited to come to these events. The events always have great value in bringing people together, and I think particularly in this year, after the pandemic, hopefully is beginning to calm down a little bit. Just bringing together people again, just to have those conversations, and in lots of cases, there's lots of friends that haven't seen each other. So as well as doing business, there's that sort of human connection. So yeah, very excited about coming to the UAE and seeing everyone.
Well, we're very excited to get back to face, and we're going to start doing that in September, and with Expo 2020, with the Air Show, with the Space Congress, with everything going on. It's going to be very, very exciting, and we really appreciate all the hospitality that our friends in the UAE will extend to the world as they come to visit starting in the fall. So Adnan, David, and Peter, thank you so much for taking time to be with us here today and for sharing your very valuable perspectives. Our hat is off to all that the UAE is doing in the space sector and to its close partnership with the United States and others. We appreciate that very much. Thank you as well to the U.S. Commercial Service for the opportunity to host this important Discover America Trade Talk. And we here at the Business Council are thrilled to be part of the UAE's space journey, along with all of you. We look forward to seeing you at the International Astronautical Congress and Expo 2020 later this fall. With that, everyone, thank you so much. Have a wonderful afternoon, a wonderful evening, and stay well, healthy, and happy the rest of the summer. Take care. Thank you.